Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all the sentient beings, please give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta.
Yang Di Tse, Shanchu Sanhua Sanhua Chenpo, Chongden, Shanchu Sanhua Sanhua Chenpe, Shanchu Sanhua Sanhua Chenpe, Chongden de Landerkut Sor, Zambab Chongden de Dala Gongso Sor, Dakutang de Mao Semchen, Tiva Dan Chivi Tsena, Pambar Jachin Topi Shirde, Pamshiti Chutamber Xiawo, Tenip Chongden de Shanchu Sanhua, Sai Nyambo La Gatsara, Sai Nyambo Kyonu, Shambada Nyangji Chi. Nyangji Chever, Dikduk observant Roachik, Semchen Nam Jarrer, Dodnev, Samji Metipi Chutamber Shana, the Kutula Ti Korku Yever Shago, Chochim near the Tamber Shudan, Dom Nyan Len Depana, Chochi Gumbar Naner Zoper and Yerwa Yeno. The Kitchen Tartar the Mount Semchen Namla, Simle Chong Moguso, the Nipshan was saying Yambu Jondan de Landerkoto, Sorap, Zambab Jondan de. Ngundi bi karapag me patang me bitis tevjan sobar comme tai jibjawan jikender shonor ki patam me kanjik sanjetim santune tela ti tong zamjiran la ki bisem kena karab jibji kenchi erdugba chembo nam zapren jerna ngusti njarka dan jishkur nam lam chopar shibadan torngir shina Ganzak Tip Sonum Tai Ba Home Ba Topper Magoso. Yang Hun Karwa Kongolongu Shimani Jandam Nyambi Dis Devjan Sabarumbo Che Ramjin Jishavan Jitin Jikandar Shono. Teba Gama Vadme Ganjik Sanditim Santuner Kachik Yetzim Diva the Capson Rover Samtiana Ganzak Denab Lana Mepi Lamle Shirmer Dobran Euro Yang Hun Debitis Devjan Sherba Devjan Sherba Polo Mosh Poto Mosh Jivshavan Jitender Shonor, Keba Vadmet Ganjik, Sanjetim San Tubadam, Sander Naviombo Genayan, Ganzak de Lan, Stomchak Vardan, Dolatrik, Nander Kevin Gerna, Sem Zirchik Betim San Jonar, Mumagoso. Yang Moon of Jotame Pabjotame Pindepi Kara Chame Pitis, Devjan Shabas and King Arojivshavan Jitender Shono. Keba Vadmet Ganjiki, Sanjetim Santuner Kajik. Chik Zamla, Kyapsona, Sandi T. Ganzak de Sandi Shia Chame Padam Jarjan, Santuberan Gerna, Gansongo Nes, Namian Marton Jan, Start of Dea Pasum, Sobatobar Gerago. Yang Mundi Bitis, Tejan Shabarumbo Chim, Samzan Jivsha and Jitin Dorfshono, Keba and Mekanjik, Sandi Tim Santoneti, Kibi Semtine, Ganzak. Maran or Jabjumbi come Toberangero, young, one Karahotame Bachame Pitis, Devjan Sherba, Chukur, Jamson, Jisha and Jitender, Shono, Kebang of Mekanjik, Sangetim Santoni, Santuber Kirna Karachimbo, Yapchik, Kinchi, Digba Zaparangero, young, DPTs, Devjan Sherba, Tobame, Ri, Yarbo, Jisha and Jitin, Doroshono, Kebang, but Mekanjik, Sangetim, Santuber Kirna. Ganzak de Gangolongo Shimani Ji Sandi Ji Zhang Sandi Namji Chur Jachir Tambadam Chabranger Chadni Nibird Shanship Ji Komo Tobrangero, Devjender Mungitis, Devjan Shabar Davayan Tagdan, Devjan Shabar San Number Tabadan, Devjan Shabar Ishi Yons Chabadan, Devjan Shabar Lana Mebadan, Devjan Shabar Jarian Nyambadan, Devjan Sherba Dava Nyagandan, Devjan Sherbar Davi Vienre La, Sobab Jotemepi Sandianam Jitender Shono. Zumbab Jondan de Tartar dans Mao Semchen Namla, Lagam, Me, Keba, Vadmet, Ganjiki, Sandi Jim San Larchik to Britirnaya, Payo, Hodameba Tobne, Sandi Mombum Santobanar, Mumaguso, Dina, Di Semchen Teter, Kiadan Chivi, Tsena Gan, Pambartia Chimber Tomning, Asongones, Nayaton, Manjuro, Ganzak Ganjik, Tsempubanati, Kim, Nyankur Nam, Tana, Murchiki, Napi, Chet, Jackson, Tombu, Sanji jim San Larchik Jona, Ganzak Tim, Same Baranga, Shiba Matoba, Duba Chitr Sagjan, Tamsis Zapar and Jerum, Same Barangis, Dubana, Shinder Chiv, Kara, Tonshir Gavarda, Tarik Kap Mamjiso. Ganzak Chika Mara, Janji, Sanji Jim, San Jope, Tedak, Dubanam Ramji, Zapar and Jerna, Ganzak Runga Sanji Jim San Jona, Payo Hodameba, Tobadan. Dugba Hodamepan Zapan, Mumagoso, saying was Savi Mulum Jim Dole, Sanji Jim San. San la ngurbi, sanji jim san la ngurbi, legerte gupago.
Today we're going to continue our study of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, and next week will be the same schedule. On Monday and Tuesday, as well as Thursday and Friday, we'll be teaching the Ksitigarbha Sutra. This is the current plan for teaching the Ksitigarbha Sutra. As for the arrangement for the future, I'm not entirely certain at this point. Originally, we hadn't yet completed our teachings on the Uttara Tantra Shastra. We also haven't finished the Shurangama Sutra, and the Analects of Confucius remains incomplete as well. So there are quite a few texts that we haven't completed yet, but I'm thinking that this year or next year, when we have the opportunity, we'll continue with them. What's the reason for this? Well, because of the current pandemic and various other circumstances, this year has been somewhat unusual in many ways. For our audience and students, there have been various different situations. Previously, I had made promises about completing teachings like the Shurangama Sutra and these other scriptures. Actually, these are texts I want to complete within this lifetime. It's not just my courses that have been affected this way. Here at Larungar, some of the courses taught by our Khenpos and Khenmos are also not quite the same as they were before. Some of the tutorials, group discussions, and debates have also been impacted to some extent. But there hasn't been any major disruption overall. For many of our Dharma friends here, when it comes to their own personal study, to a certain degree, everyone has been studying very diligently on their own. They continue with self-study as always. So during our process of hearing and contemplating the Dharma, everyone truly needs to bring your minds to a place of calm. We need to engage in our study and contemplation seriously and earnestly. This applies to our volunteers as well. On one hand, you're doing volunteer work, and on the other hand, you should also make every effort to study and contemplate the teachings. Of course, we have some individual volunteers who may not actually be volunteering for the right reasons. I've heard that some are volunteering just to get meals. If that's the case, then this motivation isn't very pure. It should be that you eat meals in order to have energy for your volunteer service. Having this kind of motivation is fine. But volunteering just to get meals probably won't bring very good results. The motivation isn't very pure, and on top of that, your efficiency probably won't be very good either. So this isn't really beneficial. Now, on one hand, there's what we call work-study programs. There are such programs both domestically and abroad. During the learning process, on one hand, you're also accumulating merit for yourself, and at the same time, you engage in volunteer service and work, which is actually very good. There are indeed individuals being more capable, can devote themselves to volunteer service while their studies remain entirely undisturbed. There are people like this. Some people manage everything very well, while others don't do anything well. Their volunteer service isn't good. Their study and contemplation are not well cultivated. Even their eating is not done properly. There are indeed such cases. No matter what, we should still be very conscientious. Whatever it is we're supposed to do, we should do things according to our own methods and principles. This is very important. That's one point. There's another thing I want to mention. This year has certainly been quite a special and unusual situation. This has been an unprecedented experience for the entire world. We can say we're escaping from a kind of disaster and illness. Right now, each and every one of us should have a sense of appreciation and gratitude no matter what aspect we look at. This is very important. Actually, I've quoted this before. In Ashvaghosha Sutra Lankara, it says, "No illness is the foremost benefit. Being content is the wealthiest. Virtuous friends are the best relatives. Nirvana is the utmost happiness." I find this really quite meaningful. Because in this world, if we can live healthily, that's probably the greatest benefit of all. In this world, if we're content with little, don't face much difficulty in life, and don't have excessive inflated desires, then we're actually very wealthy indeed. And another thing is when we encounter genuine virtuous teachers and virtuous friends and family members who bring you positive virtuous influences, these people are truly the best relatives in the world. Now, as for nirvana is the utmost happiness, from our present perspective, whether it's the nirvana of Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas, or the nirvana of bodhisattvas, it's probably not that easy to attain. So temporarily speaking, we may not be able to achieve it. But the first three things, we should all cherish them. We're healthy and free from illness. We don't have much pressure in our lives. And truly in this life, we've encountered so many Dharma friends, so many virtuous friends. Living in such an environment, well, we're truly very happy and joyful. Of course, we also shouldn't become excessively attached. Whether it's your wealth, your position, or your friends and relatives, if we become overly attached and grasping, it can actually bring us suffering. As Sakya Pandita said, if we love something too excessively, it mostly becomes a cause for resentment and hatred. For example, if I'm extremely attached to position and status, then eventually it will likely bring resentment or suffering. If I'm overly attached to friends, family, or certain people, it can also bring confusion and resentment. And if I'm overly attached to reputation or to everything in general, excessive attachment will bring problems. So right now we're healthy, although we have everything we need and we have opportunities to hear the genuine Dharma. Of course, we should cherish all of this. But we shouldn't become overly attached to them either. If we become too attached, then we ourselves, because of this strong attachment, our mental state will shift into a different condition. And this kind of state can bring sufferings. So on one hand, all of us should still feel happy that we have these opportunities in this human world. But on the other hand, we need to relax our body and mind. And there's a very profound, essential point to this relaxation. Whether it's your work, your life, or your family, including our Dharma study and practice, don't be overly tense and anxious, and don't be overly attached either. If you are overly attached, it's not good for your physical health, not good for your emotional state, and it can even affect your sleep at night. If you can't eat well, dress comfortably, or sleep well, then indeed your lives will be negatively impacted. So I think everyone should learn how to live well. Learning to relax is very important. Now, in today's teaching on the Ksitigarbha Sutra, let me first share an efficacy story. There was a place called Ming. There was a fisherman there, someone who caught fish. Once, when he was out at sea catching fish, he caught a holy statue in his fishing net. It looked like the image of a monastic. After this fisherman got it, he just threw it aside on the shore. He didn't really know what kind of statue it was, so he just threw it on the shore. That night, he had a dream. In the dream, a monk appeared and said, "Why did you abandon me?" The fisherman asked, "Who are you? Why are you saying this?" He said, "I am Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. I've been in the ocean benefiting all these water-dwelling beings. Through my efforts, many beings have been reborn in the celestial realm. This time, I was especially thinking of you and missing all of you, so I entered your net in this way." Then he woke up. After waking up, he felt incredibly regretful. He immediately went to confess and repent. He retrieved that statue and brought it back. Then he built a shrine and enshrined it in the shrine. After enshrining it, this holy statue brought infinite benefits to the local people. Many fishermen, these people who catch fish, would often go there to make offerings and pay homage. This holy statue was especially endowed with great blessings. It was a very miraculous and efficacious holy statue. From this story, we can see that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva manifests in whatever form is needed, whether in the animal realm or in the human realm. He uses different methods to liberate and guide sentient beings. So in the future, when we have opportunities, perhaps in remote places where people haven't even heard Buddha's name or the names of bodhisattvas, in places like these, if you have the proper conditions and circumstances, building temples may not be so easy, but you could build a shrine or construct a Dragon King temple or something like that where you can place statues of Buddhas and bodhisattvas. If even that isn't possible, then in any place, in common public facilities like restaurants, tea houses, coffee shops, or bookstores, in these kinds of places, you could place statues of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva or Buddha Shakyamuni in places where many people can see them and pay homage. Even for those who have no faith at all, as long as they're in places where they can see these images, if there are images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, either directly or indirectly, it brings especially great benefits to sentient beings. So in the future, after each of us has gained good understanding of these teachings, we should make our own aspirations. Some people have capability, some may not have as much, but if your family members don't oppose Buddhism, you could request a statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and place it in your shrine for family members to see and for guests to see. If you're a monastic and you're in a monastery, you can also regularly use these images to bestow blessings to others. We often see, like in southern regions such as Fujian, many devoted followers who make pilgrimages often take Buddha statues with them and bring them to temples. Perhaps they're having them consecrated or something. They don't place them at the temple, but place them in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for a while, then take them back. I don't know exactly what their reasoning is. I'm not particularly clear about it, but they do indeed have such customs. This is probably one method. The names of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the merit and virtue of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, are truly inconceivable. We should understand the names of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Then in our future activity of promoting the Dharma and benefiting beings, we should make every effort to create such opportunities. Next, we'll discuss the chapter called Reciting the Names of Buddhas. I remember in this chapter, there are about 10 or so Tathagata's names and merit discussed. Previously, I translated A Garland of Jewels, Names of Buddhas and bodhisattvas. At that time, I also asked many people to recite these names regularly or from time to time. These names possess inconceivable merit and virtue, just as it's taught in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. In hundreds of thousands of kalpas, to hear a Buddha's name is rare. Throughout hundreds of thousands of kalpas, the names of Buddhas are indeed extremely difficult to hear. How fortunate we are that in this life we've heard the name of Buddha Amitabha, the name of Buddha Shakyamuni, as well as the name of infinite forms Tathagata that we'll discuss next, and so on. We can say to hear these names is truly a great fortune in the midst of misfortunes. Sometimes when we think about it, we've been born in this degenerate age in a world where karma is heavy and afflictions are deep and we're quite pitiful. The afflictions in our mind streams and the suffering in our mind streams truly afflict each of us to different degrees. But on the other hand, we truly have not been born in a time when the Dharma has disappeared or in a dark kalpa. The teachings of Buddhism and the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas still exist and continue to be present. So having encountered all of this, we are truly very fortunate. I myself often think this way, although sometimes my own practice isn't very good and there are various circumstances. But sometimes when I encounter such wonderful scriptures and such wonderful Buddha statues, even if I just make 3 prostrations a day, this is still an especially important thing to do. So I think all of us should also cherish our human existence, because our human existence is truly impermanent. How long it can be sustained, no one has any certainty or assurance about this. Next, let's continue with the text. At that time, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Mahasattva said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, for the sake of future sentient beings, I'm preparing to expound Mahayana teachings that will be of tremendous benefit to them, so that they may obtain great benefits while in the cycle of birth and death." When Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva teaches the Dharma to sentient beings, they will certainly receive benefits. O world-honored one, please allow me to speak on this. Today, it's Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva teaching the Dharma and asking the Buddha to listen. He said, today I really want to teach the Dharma. Usually it's the Buddha who teaches while Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva listens below. But today, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is going to give a teaching. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is going to teach the Dharma. He's asking the Buddha to permit him and to listen to see whether what he teaches is reasonable or not. The Buddha told Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, "You now wish to expound the Mahayana teachings, and you possess loving kindness and compassion. With this compassion and kindness, you will rescue and liberate all sentient beings in the 6 realms throughout the 3 realms of samsara, and you will expound inconceivable teachings." This is especially wonderful. Today is precisely the right time for you to teach here. The causes and conditions are perfectly aligned. The Buddha also grants permission. This is the right time. You should speak at once. You should proclaim your teaching swiftly. At that time, the Buddha, actually sometimes when we teach or listen to the Dharma, it's best not to procrastinate. You see here, this is the right time. You should speak at once. If you want to teach, don't delay any longer. It is the perfect time right now. This moment is very appropriate and suitable, so you should proclaim it quickly. Then the Buddha said, "I will soon enter parinirvana before long. At this time, your great aspiration will also be fulfilled." It's not entirely clear when exactly the Ksitigarbha Sutra was taught, but logically reasoning, after the Buddha attained enlightenment, he first taught the Dharma to King Suddhodana. Later, he learned that his mother had been reborn in Trayastrimsa heaven, so he went there to teach the Dharma. That's one possibility. But on the other hand, it's possible that the Buddha first turned the wheel of Dharma in the human world, and only later that he went to the celestial realm to turn the wheel of Dharma. This is also possible. Now, at Larungar, when we hold Dharma assemblies, basically, at the beginning of the year, there's the month of miracles, when the Buddha subdued the Tirthikas through miraculous powers. Then comes the month of Vaishakha, which commemorates the Buddha's enlightenment, and so on. The 4th day of the 6th month in the Tibetan calendar marks the day when Shakyamuni Buddha first turned the Dharma wheel. And it's not until the 9th month that we have the month of the descent from heaven. It seems that according to our 4 great Dharma assemblies, the Buddha teaching the Dharma to his mother and the descent from heaven should come later. Perhaps this phrase, "I will soon enter parinirvana," means that your aspiration will also be realized very soon. I too will have no worry. I won't need to worry about all sentient beings, present and future. From this reasoning, we can also see that when the Buddha was about to leave this world, what was he concerned about? He was concerned about us sentient beings in this degenerate age. It's like an elderly mother who is about to pass away. She is especially concerned about her children. She's especially thinking of them and missing them. As Buddha was about to enter nirvana, he was thinking about how to entrust the care of these beings in this degenerate age. The Buddha appeared to also have some concerns. His concern was not about the Buddha himself, as the Mahayana Mahaparinirvana Sutra teaches. The Tathagata suffers from hardships and he feels it not. He looks upon the pains of beings as he does the pains of his own. The Tathagata has no suffering himself. As for suffering, he has already completely annihilated the roots of suffering, and its origin he has no real suffering. But when he sees the suffering of beings in the six realms when they're in such agony and torment, it's as if he himself were truly experiencing that suffering. He has great compassion for them. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are actually like this. The suffering of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is not like ours as ordinary beings. We ordinary beings are always self-centered, always focused on me. Once when I went somewhere, there was a great master who was teaching the Dharma, and at that time I felt this was really true. He said, if a teacher is teaching the Dharma out in public and the word he mentions most frequently is I, it shows that this person has very strong self-attachment, because his speech and his mind are connected. If in his mind he's always thinking I, then in his speech he'll also frequently say things like I am this and that. If someone mentions I a lot in their speech, it shows his self-attachment is quite strong. And when self-attachment is strong, this person will be quite miserable, because as ordinary beings, all our suffering is for ourselves. None of our afflictions originates from our consideration for others. The tears we shed, the sentiments we exude, and the agony we experience are all rooted in self-centeredness. As ordinary beings, it's all for ourselves. At the root, it's all for me. It's all grief over me. But Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are completely different when it comes to their own affairs. Truly, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, even if the flesh on their bodies were being cut off piece by piece, as taught in the Introduction to the Middle Way, they would not experience extreme suffering. But when they see sentient beings in agony, when they see sentient beings suffering, they cannot bear it. It's extremely painful for them. So here it also teaches that the Buddha said, I too, if you can leave behind the sacred Dharma for sentient beings, the Buddha said, even though I will soon enter nirvana, I feel that sentient beings will have someone to rely on. With such wonderful teachings, even though the Buddha will soon enter nirvana, he won't have worries or concerns. Next, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva began to teach after the Buddha granted permission and praised him in this way. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva truly began to teach the Dharma. His teaching mainly discusses the names and merit of many Tathagatas. This is what Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva taught. Afterward, it seems the Buddha didn't offer praise or anything like that. But earlier, he had already granted permission, saying, this is the right time. You should speak at once. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva taught as follows. The first one he mentioned is this. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said to the Buddha, World-honored one, in the past, measureless asamkhya kalpas ago, there arose in the world a Buddha named Infinite Forms Tathagata. We often recite Namo Infinite Forms Tathagata. It is very good to do so. We probably won't have time today, but I hope everyone will note that each Tathagata's name we discuss today possesses tremendous merit. Namo Infinite Forms. Tathagata, everyone should recite this as well. If there are men and women who hear the name of Infinite Forms Tathagata, and for even a brief moment generate a mind of reverence toward him, what will happen? They will transcend 40 kalpas of severe torments of samsara. How much more so when we sculpt statues of Infinite Forms Tathagata, paint images of Infinite Forms Tathagata's form, and make offerings to him and sing his praises. Then the merit they obtain will be boundless and inconceivable. Indeed, I'm also wondering what the form of Infinite Forms Tathagata actually looks like, but probably the forms of many Buddhas are quite similar. I'm not particularly sure, as I haven't seen one before. But if we create images of Infinite Forms Tathagata and make offerings to them, the merit is truly enormous. In the past, it seems that in exceptional stories in sutras and Vinaya texts, once upon a time, there was a great king who ruled 84,000 smaller countries. These countries were very remote. At that time, he had Buddha images painted and distributed one painting to each country. Later, because of this virtuous connection, this king later became Buddha Shakyamuni. Upon his parinirvana, his relics were placed into 84,000 reliquary stupas in 84,000 different places worldwide for wide veneration. There are 84 24,000 Buddha stupas. There's such a story. So sometimes I think about that in relatively remote cities and remote places where even the names of Buddhas don't exist. I really want to create Buddha statues there. I've been to Africa twice. In Africa, some Han Chinese monks were building Buddha statues there. They have performed great meritorious deeds. Originally, I was thinking at that time that in my later years I should stay in Africa. Africa seems to have 54 countries. In some of these countries, people cannot even hear the name of the Buddha. Perhaps they don't even have the names or images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Over there, various disasters and various kinds of suffering keep arising one after another. If there were some Buddha statues or some temples there, if we did more of this, perhaps their destiny could be transformed very quickly. But later, it seems that sometimes the aspirations we make, I wouldn't say I made an aspiration, but at that time, I really wanted to spend my later years there. I don't know how long I'll be able to live. However long I can live, as a monastic, anywhere is home. So whether I die in Africa, Europe, or America, there's really no difference. As long as the local sentient beings can benefit even a little bit, it would be something I truly yearn for. If there's an opportunity in the future, I really would like to die in Africa. At that time, those black people could bury my corpse wherever they want. Perhaps they won't even bury it. I saw in the prisons that some people had already collapsed inside and they didn't even care. I went to several prisons. So sometimes we should still make aspirations. Make aspirations to go to places where the sacred Dharma is not flourishing. In places with better conditions, right now in some cities with better conditions in Han region, there are relatively more people promoting the Dharma. In more remote places with poorer conditions, there are fewer people promoting the Dharma. This isn't because eminent monks and great masters have discriminatory minds, but it's probably that there truly is a certain difference regarding the karma of sentient beings. Because when the karma created is quite severe, perhaps in those places there's no dharma, no wealth, and all kinds of disasters also occur frequently. This kind of situation may exist. So in the future, if we have the ability, we should bring blessings according to our own circumstances and ensure that sentient beings receive some benefits. As Mahayana Buddhists, this is the most important thing we should always keep in mind. This is the first Buddha. The second Buddha is as follows. Moreover, in the past, as many kalpas ago as there are grains of sand in the Ganges River, there arose in the world a Buddha named Jewel Nature Tathagata. Indeed, the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra also records the name of this Buddha. It's called Jewel Nature Tathagata, dwelling in the world of numerous jewels. This Jewel Nature Tathagata transmitted the Prajna teachings to many bodhisattvas. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name and within the time of a finger snap generate the mind to take refuge, thinking, Jewel Nature Tathagata is remarkable. I want to take refuge in him. If they have this kind of mind, these people will never fall back or turn away from the unsurpassed way. This person, no matter what, having generated this kind of mind, will never regress from the Mahayana unsurpassed way. Throughout all lifetimes, their wealth and everything will be perfectly complete. No matter which Buddha it is, actually the merit of taking refuge in Buddhas, these kinds of benefits are truly boundless and limitless.
Sarki Kyabsa Simchin Sundru Avdurnam She Sapar Mani Satram Yamsham Lun Chigirnatin Nibrki Parundro.
Previously, we cited a teaching from the Sutra of the Heart of the Sun. He who has made the Buddha his refuge cannot be killed by 10 million demons, though he may transgress his vows or be tormented in mind. It is certain that he will go beyond rebirth. This also seems to be cited in words of my perfect teacher. Later, when I was reviewing the Tripitaka, I wondered what that sutra is called in the Han Chinese canon. At that time, I think I mentioned it in class. When we translated it, we called it the Sutra of the Heart of the Sun. But in the Chinese canon, it seems, I think I mentioned it in class at that time, this sutra also exists in Chinese. The teaching I just cited, the Chinese translation is slightly different. I didn't look it up today. Actually, this already teaches that whoever takes refuge in the Buddha, millions of Mara and their retinues cannot harm them. Even if you break precepts or your mind is distracted, this person will definitely attain liberation. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, sometimes we call it taking the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. The merit of just taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha is actually especially tremendous. Those who, even with distracted minds, chanted but once homage to the Buddha, have certainly attained the path of the Buddhas. The merit of this is inconceivable. This is the merit of the second Buddha's name we discussed. Then the third Buddha's merit. Moreover, in the past there arose in the world a Buddha named Lotus Excellence Tathagata. Lotus Excellence Tathagata is translated as Red Lotus Excellence Tathagata. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name, who have the sound pass through their ears, planting a seed in their alaya consciousness, then this person will be reborn 1,000 times in the six heavens of the desire realm. This Lotus Excellence Buddha, it seems in the Sutra of the Buddha speaks of Buddha names, which should have been translated during the Northern Wei dynasty by Bodhiruchi, not the Tang dynasty Bodhiruchi. He used many names, 11,093 Buddha names. It seems this sutra contains this Buddha's name called Lotus Excellence. I remember this sutra has 12 volumes. In Chinese Buddhist canon, there are quite a few sutras that specifically mentioned Buddha names. Although in the Tibetan regions there's the sutra of the names of the 1,000 Buddhas in the present fortunate kalpa, there are some. Tibetan regions also have some. But perhaps the emphasis on the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is greater in the Han regions. In the past, the great translators of earlier times had already translated all of these long ago. One well-known scripture is chanting the names of Noble Manjushri. Actually, chanting the names of Noble Manjushri is called a tantra in Tibetan Buddhist canon. In Chinese, it's called a sutra. But it doesn't actually discuss a particularly large number of names. As everyone knows about chanting the names of Noble Manjushri, it mainly discusses the qualities of Manjushri Bodhisattva. It can be considered a tantra for cultivating wisdom. In the Chinese Tripitaka, it is translated as chanting the names of Noble Manjushri. There are various scriptures on Buddha names, like Sutra of the names of the 1,000 Buddhas in the present fortunate kalpa, Sutra of the names of the 1,000 Buddhas in the present fortunate kalpa, many others. There are various scriptures on Buddha names in Tripitaka. If we have time, everyone should also review the Tripitaka. It's necessary to recite the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas once yourself. Because the names of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, each one, they may look like just a few words, but actually they truly possess great merit and virtue. I've also read the Sutra of the Buddha speaks of Buddha names that we just mentioned. In it, some use Sanskrit transliteration like Padmajina. There are some in Sanskrit. Some are directly recited in Chinese. Some without Sanskrit are also present. Some briefly discuss their pure lands and such. There are also such cases. Anyway, what are we discussing here? The merit of these Buddha names is also inconceivable. Just by entering through the ear faculties, there's such great merit. How much more so when we sincerely and wholeheartedly recite and meditate on Buddha names? It's also inconceivable. So we should also often recite by ourselves, Namo Lotus Excellence Tathagata. We should recite this more often. It's also especially important than the fourth Buddha's name. Moreover, in the past, inexpressibly inexpressible Asamkhya Kalpas ago, there arose in the world a Buddha named Lion's Roar Tathagata. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name and in a thought take refuge in him, what will these people obtain? They will meet measureless Buddhas who will place their hands on the crowns of their heads and give them prediction. So for us as well, Lion's Roar Tathagata, I've seen this in many sutras on Buddha names. Lion's Roar Tathagata appears quite frequently. Including in our Tibetan texts, there's often Lion's Roar Tathagata. In Chinese texts as well, there's the name of Lion's Roar Tathagata. Here, it doesn't say virtuous men and virtuous women. Whatever kind of men and women, all are acceptable. If they hear this Buddha's name and wish wholeheartedly to take refuge, then countless Buddhas in the future will place their hands on their crowns and bless them. And in the future, give them the prediction of Bodhi. So this is also very important. The fifth one says, in the past, there arose in the world a Buddha named Krakuchanda Buddha. Krakuchanda Buddha is the first Buddha in our present fortunate kalpa. Everyone has heard of him. In some historical accounts, Krakuchanda Buddha appeared when human lifespan was 40,000 years. Of course, there are different historical accounts. Krakuchanda Buddha is also very important. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name and then, with a resolute mind, gaze reverently at and make obeisance to him, and also continue to sing his praises and extol him, these people in the assemblies of the 1,000 Buddhas of the present kalpa will become great Brahma kings and be given superior prediction. For the earlier Krakuchanda Buddha, for some Buddhas, one needs to sincerely prostrate and pay homage. For some, there aren't such requirements. Here it says to prostrate and sincerely praise. In this way, when the 1,000 Buddhas of the fortunate kalpa appear in the world in his Dharma assemblies, one will become a celestial king, such as Brahma or Indra, or in the human realm, one will also become a king. The sixth Buddha in the past, there arose in the world a Buddha named Vipassin Buddha. If men and women hear this Buddha's name, they will never fall into the lower realms and will always be reborn among humans or devas, experiencing excellent, wonderful happiness. So just hearing such a Buddha's name here, it doesn't say whether we have faith in the name or belief. For Vipassin Buddha, just hearing is enough. One will never fall. Sometimes when we practice, it is hard to say whether our practice succeeds or not, whether our minds are sincere or not, whether all the necessary conditions are fully present or not. But with Tathagata names like these, Whether you have faith or not, whether you can understand their meaning or not, just hearing these names, one will never fall into the lower realms. So sometimes in sutra like the Sutra of Great Liberation and the Sutra of Golden Light, these texts particularly teach about the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. No matter what kind of sentient being, if we transmit these names to their ears in this way for these sentient beings, they will never again have to experience suffering in the three lower realms. So this is also very important. Now the seventh Buddha, in the past, as many kalpas ago as there are grains of sand in measureless, countless Ganges rivers, there arose in the world a Buddha named Jewel Excellence Tathagata. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name, they will never fall into the lower realms and will frequently, just like the earlier Buddha, it doesn't say humans here, frequently be in the heavens and experience wonderful happiness. This is Jewel Excellence Tathagata. But regarding Jewel Excellence Tathagata, I've seen in the Sutra of Golden Light the story of the elder son Jalavahana is taught. At that time it was Ratnasikin, and the story of the elder son Jalavahana at that time, I think I won't teach it today. Everyone should already understand the story of the elder son Jalavahana. In some scriptures it's called Ratnasikin, which refers to the Ushnisha on the crown of the head, Ratnasikin. This should probably be different translations. This should be Ratnasikins. So for Ratnasikin, especially when we recite the name to the ears of animals, if we recite it to them, then these animals, these beings in the lower realms, will never fall again. This is very important. When someone asks me to recite sutras, whether for people or other animals, I will recite the name of Buddha Amitabha, the name of Buddha Shakyamuni, and the name of Ratnasikin. If I have time, I will recite the names of the 7 medicine Buddhas and also those that I can remember, such as the names of the 8 great Bodhisattvas and the names of other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Sometimes people ask me to perform phawa for the deceased. According to the requirements in words of my perfect teacher, the person performing phawa needs to have a relatively high level of realization. There are requirements, but if one recites Buddha names, anyone can recite them. For many of our Dharma friends here in the future, whether someone requests it or not, whenever you see sentient beings who are dying or see sentient beings who are critically ill, at that time, if you kindly and compassionately recite Buddha names a few times in their ears, it will be 100% beneficial to these sentient beings, especially for sentient beings at the time of death. It doesn't matter who recites the names, there's no difference, because this is like medicine. For example, with some teachings, if the doctor doesn't know, perhaps they might give the wrong thing. But this is medicine that's already been properly prepared. So whether a nurse gives it or a doctor gives it, and even if other people bring it to them, this is sublime medicine with no side effects whatsoever, we could say. If there were side effects, if I take this, it might be good for this condition, but not for that one. That might happen. But this truly doesn't have such problems. So as Buddhists with faith, we should first we ourselves need to understand the supreme qualities of the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Because every single Buddha accumulated merit throughout hundreds of thousands of kalpas, then perfected the accumulations of wisdom and merit, and finally manifested as Buddhas. So their names are truly different from ordinary worldly names. The names of our own root gurus are truly meaningful for us too. In our Tibetan tradition, for example, when mentioning the names of gurus who have passed into nirvana, it's very difficult to call them directly by name. But when necessary, we say His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche. We preface it with His Holiness. It's difficult to call directly. But out of necessity, Guru so-and-so. Generally, after a guru has passed into nirvana, we don't directly call out the guru's name. We should always preface it with an expression of how difficult it is to speak, but because we must say it, we say such and such guru. So generally, the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are felt to be especially powerful. I personally believe that even the names of gurus who have shown us tremendous kindness, if the names continue to exist in this world, the sentient beings who invoke or hear their names, directly or indirectly, will definitely plant roots of virtue in their alaya consciousnesses. Every day we recite the supplication prayer of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche. In the pure realm of the great sacred site, the 5-peaked mountain, the blessings of Manjushri's wisdom ripened in your mind. Jigme Phuntsok, at your feet I pray. When we recite Jigme Phuntsok, at your feet I pray, this name is different from ordinary worldly names. Of course, this is related to one's own faith. If one doesn't have faith, all of this is meaningless to discuss. Buddha names as well, like all these Buddha names we've discussed today for people without faith, they feel nothing at all. They have no feeling about gurus' names either. They have no feeling about the sacred names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas either. As taught in the Buddha Speaks of the Mahayana 10 Dharma Sutra, a man who has no faith will not give birth to pure virtues, just like scorched seeds do not take root and germinate. That passage from the Buddha Speaks of the Mahayana 10 Dharma Sutra is one that we in Tibetan often like to quote. For people without faith, no merit, no virtuous virtuous qualities can possibly arise. Just as if we completely burn all seeds to ashes, can they produce sprouts? Can they produce green sprouts? Impossible. In our Tibetan translation, it's green sprouts. There's the word green. But in Chinese, it says, do not take root and germinate. Root sprouts. Sprouts are definitely green. They can't be purple or yellow, right? I see our academy's groundskeeping team. Their environmental beautification work is really not done very well. They put all those flowers on the roadside and then didn't water them. Today, when I went to the Mandala area, they were all dried up. These aren't called green sprouts, they're yellow sprouts. We have some individual volunteers here. I don't know what these people are doing. All those wonderful flowers were all piled up on the roadside railings and they all dried up. I don't know what that group is doing. This should be like, do not take root and germinate. If you're going to do something, do it well from beginning to end. Finishing well is very important, seeing things through to completion. Our volunteer service is the same. Some people are extremely enthusiastic when they first start volunteering, but later on, they don't attend to things carefully. What does success come from? From attention to detail. So without attention to these details and long-term dedication, temporary enthusiasm doesn't last long. It doesn't have much meaning. So I'm saying people without faith are like some of these flowers. Where did I go with this discussion? I should be discussing the merit of Buddhas, not that the eighth Buddha. In the past, there arose in the world a Buddha named Jewel Sign, Tathagata. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name and generate a mind of reverence toward him, these people will attain arhatship before long. It seems in the Sutra of the Buddha's words of teaching, there's also a jewel sign, Tathagata. Perhaps it's the same Buddha's name. Then the ninth one. Moreover, in the past, measureless asamkhyeya kalpas ago, there arose in the world a Buddha named Kasaya Banner Tathagata. For Kasaya Banner Tathagata, it seems in the Han region's liturgy of compassionate samadhi water repentance. It seems to have been composed by the imperial master Wuda. In the past, he had many miraculous experiences at that time. We've also taught his story before. In his liturgy of compassionate samadhi water repentance, there's also Kasaya Banner Tathagata. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name, they will transcend 100 great kalpas of torments of samsara. They can transcend, they can purify 100 great kalpas worth of karma. So I hope you'll write down these Tathagatas' names in your notebooks for yourselves. For example, Namo Kasaya Banner Tathagata, Namo Jewel Sign Tathagata. Some of us love to recite the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For all of them, you don't need to mention how many kalpas ago they appeared. Just write down these 10 Buddha names and preface each one with Namo. Put them in your daily chanting book and chant the names, even though we may not always have the time or suitable circumstances to recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day. However, some people really love reciting the Ksitigarbha Sutra, which is excellent. I find this very worthy of rejoicing. If you really don't have time, we should still write down the names of these 10 Tathagatas, preface each with Namo, and recite them quickly in a short time. This is especially important. Now, the 10th Buddha. Moreover, in the past, there arose in the world a Buddha named Great Penetration Mountain King Tathagata. Great Penetration Mountain King Tathagata. This Buddha also has Mountain King in his name. Someone doesn't have Mountain King, no need to worry. Great Penetration Mountain King Tathagata. If there are men and women who hear this Buddha's name, these people will meet as many Buddhas as there are grains of sand in the Ganges River. And moreover, these Buddhas will extensively expound the Dharma for them, and they will certainly attain Bodhi. These are the 10 Tathagata names we discussed earlier. There are more. Moreover, in the past there was Pure Moon Buddha, Mountain King Buddha, Wisdom Excellence Buddha, Pure Name King Buddha, Wisdom Accomplished Buddha, Unsurpassed Buddha, Wonderful Sound Buddha, Full Moon Buddha, and Moon Countenance Buddha. There were inexpressibly many Buddhas such as these. Actually, for these Buddhas, if we recite their names one by one and supplicate to them, there's also inconceivable merit. At that time, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said, World-honored one, all living beings in the present and future, be they devas or humans, men or women, as long as they recite a Buddha's name, they will attain measureless virtues. How much more so when they remember many names? Whether we recite the names of 1,000 Buddhas or recite a garland of jewels, names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Actually, at that time, my hope was truly to get many people to recite the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It seems that for a period of time we persevered in this, but in the future I think many people will continue to persevere. Among the Dharma friends I know, they still recite many Buddha and Bodhisattva names in their daily practice. These beings will gain great benefits at the time of birth and the time of death, and they will never fall into the lower realms. If a person is on the verge of death and his family members, even just one of them, recite a Buddha's name clearly for the sick one's sake, Namo Amitabha, Namo Buddha Shakyamuni, Namo Ratnasikin. If they recite even one Buddha's name in this way, the dying person, with the exception of the 5 crimes with immediate retribution, all other karmic retributions will be completely dissolved. They will all be eliminated. The 5 crimes with immediate retribution, because they're extremely grave offenses, they will pass through millions of kalpas in the hells or in the lower realms without release. So the 5 crimes with immediate retribution are especially terrifying. However, when we recite the King of Aspiration prayers, it's also often taught, all negative acts, even the 5 of immediate retribution, whatever they have committed in the grip of ignorance, will soon be completely purified if they recite this aspiration to good actions. When we recite the King of Aspiration prayers, because in the past we lacked wisdom and created the severe 5 crimes with immediate retribution, now by reciting the King of Aspiration prayers very quickly, all these offenses can be eliminated. I remember when His Holiness was transmitting the Dharma in the past, there was a Khenpo named Khenpo Gardo who would say, is the King of Aspiration prayers truly that auspicious? Is it really that simple? He would frequently ask His Holiness about this. Indeed, whether we recite the King of Aspiration prayers or recite certain mantras, the 5 crimes with immediate retribution can also be eliminated. But whether one can be reborn in Sukhavati in this very life is a separate matter. So here it also says it is still difficult to purify the 5 crimes with immediate retribution. Nevertheless, by virtue of other people reciting Buddha Amitabha's name or Buddha Shakyamuni's name, for his sake when he is on the verge of death, even such offenses can be gradually dissolved too. As long as someone recites Buddha names for them, even if their karma is extremely severe, this karma will also be eliminated. How much more so when living beings themselves and when others recite Buddha names for them, even their extremely severe offenses can be eliminated. How much more so when living beings themselves can truly recite Buddha names themselves. They will gain measureless and boundless merit and dissolve offenses that are equally measureless and boundless. And so we should constantly recite the King of Aspiration prayers and recite the names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas so that the karma in our mind streams can be purified and we can aspire as much as possible to be reborn in the pure land of Sukhavati. We should make aspirations in this way. So this chapter has been completed. We hope to complete the Ksitigarbha Sutra as soon as possible this year. In this way, for all of you, this is also a significant accomplishment. For me as well, I also feel this is quite important. Every time I finish teaching a chapter, I feel in my heart, wonderful. The 9th chapter has been completed. It's very joyful and very relaxing. So we hope that the audience will also receive these Mahayana teachings with faith. In this way, all of us should find this very meaningful.
Kirgana jirano chupai chupun solen droja
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye